Hello everyone, this is the Facts on JW channel. Welcome back. I am KC, your host, and today we are going through a newly filed federal lawsuit that is making major waves worldwide. Maybe you've heard of the $100 million lawsuit. Now that's a large sum of money, and just when I think I'm not sure what I want to talk about next, Watchtower never fails. They always have another lawsuit, another CSA problem, or other countries are finding out their shunning policies and wanting to do something about it. So today we're talking about this case with a young woman named Stella Cristina Gomez de Sousa. This case involves the Jehovah's Witness organization, their leadership in New York, their good old boys, governing body members, and a woman who says she endured serious mistreatment as a child, and that the organization not only failed to protect her, but they actively concealed what happened. So, according to a 33-page complaint filed in the Southern District of New York, this is her story, the story of Stella, and a worldwide system, she says, failed her. So, let's get into it. Stella is a 27-year-old woman from Brazil who grew up as a third-generation Jehovah's Witness. Her entire life revolved around her faith. She was taught that the elders and traveling ministers, such as the circuit overseers, were spiritual authorities, people to trust without question. But in 2010, a man named Angelo Rovieso entered her congregation as a circuit overseer. And according to Stella, her life changed dramatically from that point forward. The lawsuit states that she was only 12 years old when Rovieso began acting inappropriately towards her, behavior completely incompatible with his role as a circuit overseer. And over time, his actions became more serious and more frequent. As you can imagine, we're not going to get into all the details, but obviously there was CSA problems, and what he did to her was extremely abusive. According to the complaint, he used his religious authority, his position of trust, his influence over her family, and the organization's culture of unquestioning obedience to isolate her and control her. The behavior continued for nearly a year. The lawsuit also states that Stella showed clear signs of distress, withdrawing emotionally, avoiding being alone with the overseer, and expressing fear, but no adult intervened. By the end of the following year, 2011, Stella's behavior changed drastically. She became anxious, withdrawn, and according to the lawsuit started showing signs of overwhelming emotional distress. Eventually, a trusted friend encouraged her to confide in the elders, something witnesses are taught to do whenever there is a serious situation. So what happened next? Well, in January of 2012, she approached the elders with the truth about what she says had been happening. She had even brought printed messages from the overseer that supported her account. But rather than receiving protection or support, she was told to remain silent. She was instructed to leave it in Jehovah's hands, of course, right? Always leaving it in Jehovah's hands, because you don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name. Her communications were taken and read, and the elders discouraged involving outside authorities. This matched existing policies that, according to the filing, instructed elders to keep such matters confidential and to avoid contacting law enforcement without approval from the branch office. After Stella came forward, the overseer was quietly transferred to another region, something that, according to the complaint, cannot happen without approval from the organization's New York headquarters. No announcement was made, No warning was given to the new congregation that they're having a predator there. But then Stella was left with unanswered questions. And here's the problem. Since headquarters knew about this and had him transferred, does that not make them also accountable? Hence the lawsuit. After she reported her situation, Stella says she was suddenly stripped of her privileges as a pioneer, a position that she worked hard for. And then rumors spread through the congregation placing the blame on her instead of the circuit overseer. She was becoming socially isolated, shamed, and treated as if she had done something wrong. But the alleged perpetrator received no public discipline because the witnesses' global leadership maintain a centralized top-down structure. Local elders cannot remove or discipline a minister like a circuit overseer without headquarters approval. The governing body has to approve this. They cannot report serious misconduct to authorities without permission, and they are instructed to maintain confidentiality above all else. Again, don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name, right? But according to Stephen Lett, they don't protect these kinds of people. And let's just see what Stephen Lett has to say about that.
Think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization. We reject outright such lies.
Stephen says they do not protect these predators. But prove it then. If you don't protect them, then why are you not doing something about it? Because they don't want to accept the fact that it's happening within the organization. You see how he said that it's all about protecting the organization. The organization is where you will be safe. But that's the problem. The organization is creating an unsafe environment for some people, especially children. So now let's take a look at what Toni Morris has to say about protecting children.
While we cannot control everything that an individual might say, it is clear that over the decades, protecting children from abuse is a top priority for this organization. We are proud of our reputation in this regard, and we look forward to the time in God's new world when no one, young or old, will ever again be a victim of abuse. Since the latter part of our discussion has addressed what Jehovah's organization has done to protect children from predators, it gives me great pleasure to release at this time another animated video in the series, Become Jehovah's Friend. It is entitled, Protect Your Children.
Children, Jehovah wants you to be happy and keep you safe. But some people want to do bad things to you. So Jehovah gave you a conscience. It's like an alarm system that helps you to know right from wrong. It will protect you from danger. So, Mom and I will help you test your alarm system. Ready? What if someone tells you something that makes you feel uncomfortable or scares you? What do?
I'm not sure, but that's weird. Stop!
Very good. Tell them to stop it. And you tell Mom and Daddy. No matter what someone tells you, never keep a secret from us.
What if they ask you to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable?
I would say no.
You're right. You should say no and walk away.
What if they try to touch you where they shouldn't?
I wouldn't let them. I'd get out of there.
Good, Caleb. Even if it's an adult you know and trust, you should say no and run away. And you should yell, "Stop doing that! I'm going to tell on you!"
Stop doing that! I'm going to tell on you!
The world can be a scary place, but you are never alone. Remember, you have your conscience, your mom and dad who love you. And you have Jehovah.
We're happy to see how Jehovah's organization continues to teach our young ones how to make wise choices when the figurative monsters of this world try to lure them into their traps. And you parents should be commended for your tireless efforts to protect your children.
Well, that was good advice, I'll say. But unfortunately, they do not heed their own advice. They tell you that the parents should protect their children, and unfortunately, sometimes the parents are the problem. Sometimes they're the ones who are causing harm to their own children. Other times it's an elder, a ministerial servant, or a circuit overseer, like in this case. And they want to brush it under the rug because it's an embarrassment to them. And instead of doing something about it, they just try to keep it all quiet. They want to act like it only happens with worldly people, people you know in the world. But unfortunately, it happens within the own congregation, with their brothers and sisters in the truth, supposedly, in their congregation that are causing these problems. So that's where the problem lies. So what are you going to do about it, Watchtower? This structure created an environment where protecting the organization came before protecting children. A year later, when Stella was still a minor, another elder named Adelmo Batista began sending her inappropriate and suggestive messages online. When she was reported this to the elders, she was told that this happens when a young person is too pretty, and was advised simply to stay away from him. Later, he was promoted. This reinforced to Stella that speaking up only led to punishment for the victim, but advancement for the men involved. It's just something that aggravates me to no end, to see a child obviously being harassed or abused severely, both, and yet, it's somehow it's her fault. She's too pretty. She did something to provoke it. But when it comes to these men, well, there is no punishment. Then when she became 18 years old, anonymous letters containing messages between her and the circuit overseer were sent to her relatives. For the first time, adults in her family fully realized what had happened. They urged her to go to the police. Multiple witnesses, including her sister and her aunt and a family friend, submitted sworn statements supporting her account. And then finally in 2023, the overseer was arrested and later convicted in Brazil. But the lawsuit says the organization still wasn't done. In 2025, Stella reached out to the Jehovah's Witness headquarters in New York. The organization sent representatives to meet with her in England. According to the complaint, one representative stated that the governing body is aware of your case. Whatever you want financially, they will agree on. Just give us a number. This is in quotations. Later, she said she was told the overseer had confessed as early as 2012. He had been internally disciplined, and he wasn't officially removed from being a Jehovah's Witness until 2017. And he had recently been reinstated in 2025 while serving his prison sentence. The organization then offered her $50,000, which she declined, and she instead chose to pursue full accountability through the courts. Good for her, at least to make a point that this is not okay. She is suing for negligence, gross negligence, emotional distress, failure to properly supervise, and other related claims. She is seeking $100 million in damages, at least, so there could be more. Most importantly, the complaint argues that the Jehovah's Witness leaders in New York created policies that discouraged reporting, which we know that to be true. If you look up the Shepherding the Flock book, you will see that that is true. You're not to report it to the police. control all disciplinary decisions worldwide. They use confidentiality rules to hide serious misconduct, and they retaliated against victims who came forward and enabled a culture of silence. This case could have major implications for how religious organizations handle allegations of wrongdoing globally. And as you know, this has been kind of just Watchtower's theme. Something happens, an abuse, and it's brushed under the rug, or it's somehow your fault. And so at what point will it ever end if people continue thinking this is how you're to handle it? So thank goodness for people like Stella coming forward and saying, no, this is not okay. According to the lawsuit, Stella continues to struggle with long-term effects from her childhood trauma, including anxiety, panic attacks, and depression that make it difficult to maintain employment. Despite everything she has endured, the filing describes her as determined to bring the truth to light so that no other child goes through what she did. This is an ongoing case, and all descriptions here come directly from the lawsuit's allegations, and the defendants will have the opportunity to respond in court. If everything in this complaint is true, it paints a picture not just of one individual suffering, but of an entire system that failed to protect its most vulnerable members. So thank you, Stella, for coming forward. She was only 12 years old when this happened. And when she did come forward with what had happened, she was told to stay silent. They even wanted to access her private messages. Instead of treating her as a minor, they made her write a letter describing what happened, even though she was only 13 when she came forward with this. They required her to write it out, the details. And then they refused to report anything to the authorities, which is following organizational policy, and they kept the matter internal. They forced her to repeat everything in front of her abuser. During a judicial committee meeting, they brought the circuit overseer, Rovieso, and demanded she recount the events in front of him, which was deeply traumatizing. And they punished her, not him. They said she could no longer be a pioneer. They made an announcement that she was no longer a pioneer, and of course, rumors started to spread, blaming her. And then they quietly transferred the abuser. To me, it's just shocking that that can even happen. How do you ask a victim to write in detail what happened to you? That is insane. In front of your abuser. They did not protect her. The elders did not protect her. They discouraged her from talking, forced her into traumatic meetings, and accessed her private account and punished her instead of her abuser. Now, the circuit overseer did eventually go to prison, and he was sentenced to 15 years plus 9 months. Don't know how long he will serve of that, but that was his sentencing. And even though she did not experience disfellowshipping or shunning, her friends avoided her. She wasn't welcome to social events. She was isolated. And this drove her to attempting to unalive herself. Now, in 2012, the predator, Rovieso, did actually confess to wrongdoing while Stella was still a child. But instead of being disfellowshipping him, he was just transferred while Stella was punished. He remained a member in good standing and continued normal interactions with the organization. But then he was disfellowshipped in 2017, which was 5 years later after his confession. And the only reason was because additional pressures to report were reached to the organization. So they were pressured to do this. And there had been accounts of his in inappropriate behavior with other minors. Later, he was reinstated in 2025, even though he was in prison. And representatives from the JW org told Stella that he was reinstated as a Jehovah's Witness, and this happened while he was serving prison sentence, and he was considered spiritually repentant and not a danger. So that is the case of Stella and her perpetrator. But I will say this. People who do these kinds of things most likely have also been abused. So at some point we have to end it by coming forward and stating what happens and suing people like the Watchtower organization if that's what is needed to fix these problems. JW Watchtower has so many more abusive people in there, more than the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church is a lot bigger of a group than Jehovah's Witnesses organization. Funny thing is, Stella's aunt and uncle did believe her, and they were supportive of her. After they spoke up on her behalf, they were stripped of their privileges in the congregation. So if they had any privileges like ministerial servant or elder or pioneer, they were no longer being allowed to have these so-called privileges, which is insane because they were there to help her. Instead, they get punished. In the end, Stella's story isn't just about one man's abuse of power. It's about an entire system that, according to her lawsuit, consistently protected authority over innocence. She was only a child when she begged for help. Instead of shielding her, elders silenced her and they punished her and allowed rumors to destroy her reputation, to the point where she even felt like she didn't want to continue on. The man she accused was quietly moved, kept in good standing for years, and only disfellowshipped long after he confessed, eventually being reinstated even while sitting in prison. Meanwhile, Stella was left carrying the trauma alone. Her case shows what can happen when an organization prioritizes secrecy over safety, image over accountability, reputation over the well-being of its most vulnerable members. Today, Stella is finally telling her story in a courtroom that cannot be silenced, and her lawsuit asks one simple question: how many people looked the other way, and why? Whatever happens next, one thing is clear: Stella refuses to stay quiet anymore. So thank you, Stella, for coming forth with your story, and hopefully you will win the case. We will see what happens. Time will tell. If you want to see this entire case, I will share the 33-page report in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for more stories. We will see you again soon.